start up the meeting again. And you might notice that I've invited Jake McClellan to join us as the deputy chair of the community board. And if you would like to speak to the paper. Microphone, green button, yeah.
Good afternoon, thank you for inviting me along. I'm not going to talk too long on this. This was a fun item to chair. Our board reached a decision that we are in favour of council going out and consulting on this item, of course. It wasn't a unanimous view, but it was the view of the board. I wanted to talk mainly about the hearings panel. There was some discussion in our meeting about the strong community presence on the hearings panel. There was talk of at least one community board representative on our hearings panel of 3 and 2 community board representatives on a hearings panel of 5. And it was the preference of the board that there be a hearings panel of it was the majority preference of the board that there be a hearings panel of 5 with 2 community board representatives. And we would like to see some representation from non-council, from ordinary community board members as well. So that's really all I had to say.
How would you feel about having an independent chair, chair that's got some independence from
that's the custom and practice with hearings panel, I think. So, of course, I personally would support that, but I imagine the board would as well.
You're definitely from Southland, aren't you?
Especially when you try to enunciate as well.
And obviously we can look around the table for an independent chair, not from the community board area, not looking at anyone, deputy mayor, but
the casual.
The question is that would it be better to have somebody who's independent of council altogether, or would it be okay to go to, is it acceptable that we go down the track of having one of our members who's not involved in the community board chair it?
I mean, we didn't discuss this at the board. I can't answer on behalf of, but I think, I don't know. I think it's just important that there be
independent,
a somewhat independent voice at the chair to give,
All right. So, there are 2 elements, I guess. 3. One is to resolve to commence the public consultation obligations under the Act. The second is to approve the consultation process that's set out in the document. The third is to determine the composition of and appoint a hearings panel, and then finally to request staff to provide a further report to the council to accompany the hearings panel report following completion of the consultation process. So they're the elements of it. The element of a hearings panel, we could leave that till next week if people would prefer that. But I certainly would like us to commence the process. In terms of the hearings panel, we've heard from the chair that there's two options that they considered, and their preference by majority was for a panel of 5 with 2 community board representatives on the group. Correct, but in both instances with an independent chair.
Correct.
Fair summary?
Fair summary, yeah.
All right, so do we have any of the community board? Yeah. Or do we want staff? Okay. Yep.
When we talk about an independent chair, would you think a commissioner, an RMA commissioner, would help with any curveballs or to guide or?
Not something we discussed at the board. I just don't know what value that would add. I'm not sure. Yeah, I just can't answer.
Okay, that's thanks.
Yeah.
I think that this is slightly different from a number of other ones because of the powers that the Ministry of Education has in relation to the.
But any curveballs, etc., they could be answered quite quickly with people who are able to be guided quite professionally.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
I'd certainly support the community boards, 5 with an independent chair.
5 with an independent chair.
It's really important that we get that.
Yep.
And sorry, just to clarify, independent being a commissioner or just independent of the ward?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, do people have a strong view as to whether we need to make the decision about who goes on the community board today? On the hearings panel? I'm sorry, I'm going to put a
No
commissioner under a
changes to the
place
community board.
Eh?
I said, please no changes to the community board.
I promise I don't have the power to do that. Yeah, Andrew.
And I'm not really sure who I'm directing this question to, it might be to appropriate staff. Could we today potentially appoint a chair and 2 councillors and then leave it to the community board to appoint 2 community board members?
Yes, I think you could do that.
So our decision today could be we appoint such and such a person as the chair or an independent chair. We appoint councillor this and councillor that and 2 community board members to be appointed by the community, to be recommended by the community board.
Yes, appointed, nominated by the community
Nominated by
board.
the community board.
Okay.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
fine.
Bill?
Can I just check that possibility with Jake? Do you think the board could come to a decision around who the board would like to?
We would love to make that decision.
You'd like to?
Yep.
All right. Well, Sarah, you're putting your hand up. You'd like to be on this panel?
No, I mentioned in the report, so
But-
it is a panel.
Yeah. So you're happy to chair it?
It should be a councillor that chairs.
So Andrew Turner chair, Sarah Templeton, and who?
Yeah, they're additional to
Traditional.
Yeah, they're additional. So, and who else?
Do you want a job, Tim?
Who else would go on it?
the other councillors.
Well, David and I and Yanni have had experience with the ministry in QE2 and local, I don't know, MOE.
So you're putting your hand up?
If I can just fit it in the timetable, yeah.
Okay, so Andrew Chair, Sarah Templeton, Glenn Livingston, with the community board to nominate the 2 additional members to the hearings panel.
That sounds really good.
Good. All right, so would someone like to move the entire proposition?
I'm just wondering, does this resolution need any timeframes in it? Because there are timeframes in the resolution though. So
I don't think that they need to be in the resolution. The timeframes are relatively tight.
yeah, they are.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Tim Scandrett, seconded by Vicky Butt. Yep. Right, is there any discussion? Yanni?
Yeah,
Or
thanks.
questions?
Yeah,
For whom?
for staff.
Oh, okay, well, Jake, do you want to move to one side and we'll have the staff come to the table? Far away.
Cool. Just in terms of the consultation document, has that been prepared? Because we don't, the information that we've got on the council report compared to the information that was offered by the ministry isn't attached anywhere. So things like the building locations, the initial traffic planning, I guess. Is there an overlay of that on what's going to go out to the community?
So there's standard council consultation documentation being produced. In terms of being able to reference the documents the ministry is making available, a link to that website is being put in the council's consultation information on our website as well, so that there's no confusion around who owns which documentation, and to also create an environment for ease of access.
So I've gone on the ministry's website and trying to find which plan is being referred to is almost impossible. It would take someone
That
But we
hours
haven't
of-
gone out to
So-
consultation
the
yet.
current situation is not the situation that's going to be in place when the consultation starts. The ministry are going to establish a location on their site where all the documents they referred to today will be available for the public so to inform their decision.
So can you just
And the-
explain in simple terms to us as the decision maker to go out for consultation where the location of the school is going to be and what environmental impacts are foreseen?
Well, no, as the Ministry said when it made its deputation earlier, the design of the school and the environmental impacts are issues that they will need to work through subsequently. They are not issues to be dealt with through this consultation, which is solely focused on the land transactions. The Ministry, however, are providing that information that they discussed this morning or prior to lunch. A link will be provided to in the council's documentation or consultation documentation, giving the public direct and immediate access to that information. But those issues are for later and are for the Regeneration Act planning process to follow.
So the second question I had was around the traffic. So in the Ministry of Education reports, there's quite considerable reference to traffic and associated discussions with City Council about intersection improvements, etc. There's also reference to some changes, I think, to the coastal pathway. So what discussions have we had around that? And how is that? I see in the report that we've been told that there's no financial implications, but actually I would have thought some of those things will have quite significant financial implications.
Once
So
again, those
how
are
is that going to feed in?
Once again, those are issues for the Regeneration Act process, the planning process. Those are issues that will be dealt with. The public will have an opportunity to comment on, the council will have an opportunity to comment on later. But what we are now consulting on is the land transaction, and so those are issues for later.
So how can the public make submissions around the disposal of the reserve if they don't know what the financial cost is going to be to council? You know, if we're going to have to spend $5 million in intersection, traffic lights, roading changes, how can they make an informed sort of submission around this proposal?
The public will get the opportunity to ask those questions when the public consultation for the substantive development, should council decide to swap effectively the land. It's really important, I think, that I guess the information that the Ministry have provided was really based on the feedback that's come from the QE2 process and questions from yourself, Councillor, around providing more information. They're not legally required to provide that information, but they've kind of come to the party and understand that people want to see more to help support their submission, should they wish to make one. But the questions you're asking staff are questions for the Ministry.
We're the ones that are approving this plan to go out for consultation, and we don't have that information as elected members.
We're going out to consultation to consult on our proposal to transfer and swap some land. The planning process, the design, the traffic, all those environmental effects and impacts are matters that will be considered and dealt with through the planning process undertaken by the Ministry later.
In simple terms,
I guess the question that Jani Johansson's asking is, can that process impose a cost on the council that we don't agree with?
No.
Yes, I can.
No, what I was going to say is the report that's in front of you considers all of the costs associated to picking the park up from here and putting it over there. Questions around future costs or risks associated to then building a school over there is something that the proponent, the applicant, has to provide the information on. So that's the part that comes later.
Yes, but I guess that what he's asking is, can the Ministry of Education impose a cost on Christchurch City Council as a result of deciding to rebuild a school there? Or because they don't pay development levies like other developers, so it's not an unreasonable question to ask.
No.
I would expect that if through the planning process there were expenses, or there was money was required to be expended on traffic adjustments or roading adjustments in some way, that the Ministry would make proposals about how they were to be dealt with. I think that is something that will emerge as their proposal develops. At this stage, listening to the Ministry's deputation earlier, I mean, they haven't designed the school. They only have some very generic, high-level concepts about how it might work. And so the detail will come out through the process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's feasible that the net result is no different to the existing school site. We just don't know because that work hasn't been done.
Okay. Glenn?
Yes, and I think that's the thing. I mean, based on the QE2 experience, it seems to be it's just sequential. So you proceed with those kind of property matters, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
It's
right. Well, let's move to debate the motion. Yanni, I presume.
You want me to speak to it?
Yep.
Cool. So, first off, I just want to make the point that I'm very supportive of Redcliffs School remaining in the Redcliffs community. So, my concern over this isn't whether the school goes here or not. The concern is that, again, we seem to be faced with a lack of detail around what's actually going to be the implication for the community. And if you look at the Burwood Pegasus board reporting to QE2, they had a lot clearer lines around what land was being proposed to be sold off and what it might be formed. Now, that wasn't perfect, but accepting that one wasn't sufficient, we've got even less information today. I was really heartened to hear the ministry say they will provide that information, but I think as elected members, we should actually be able to see clearly what the implications are of the proposed disposal of a reserve. We should know what the impact is going to be on the traffic. This area is very constrained in terms of space. We've got huge issues in terms of the footpath on the other side of the road through Main Road. We've just spent a fortune on the coastal pathway and a huge community process around engagement over the design, which now could be changed completely because of the proposal of the school. But we don't have the detail. And I don't believe that the community can fairly put in submissions around whether they support this or they oppose it, because they don't have the level of detail about what the landscaping is going to be, what trees are going. If every tree along the front of Main Road, all the amenity, vegetation and trees are clear felled, then maybe the community will be pretty unhappy with that. If they see that some of the greenery is retained and there's a nice green entranceway, maybe they'll actually be supportive. But that detail just does not exist. I don't believe that the financial obligations that will fall on us will be addressed through the consenting process. In fact, most developments that we see, we've just had a whole day of hearings into our annual plan, are developers coming and saying, bring forward the funding so we can build our developments. And they're asking us to pay ratepayers' money to enable their developments to go ahead. And I can't see any reason why that won't be the case for this. And it's not to say that we shouldn't consider that funding, but we should know, if we're going to make a decision around disposing of this land, what the financial implications are. And I do not believe that they will be nil. So at the moment, I'm happy to support option 3, which is the hearings panel, but I do believe that there is insufficient information for us to make a good decision about what the implications are of this proposal, given the lack of plans that we've seen from the Ministry of Education. And I urge any one of you to go on the Ministry's website and try and find out what the proposal is in terms of the school. It's incredibly difficult to see that. There's lots of information there, but it's actually very unclear around what's being proposed specifically. And until we get that specific information, I don't think we should be going out for consultation. I don't believe it's fair to the community.
Sarah.
Thank you. There's bits of what Yanni says that I agree with, and I think that a really fully informed discussion with the community is essential. But I also know that for the community, being able to get on with this process is also really, really important. They've been waiting a really, really long time to go through this process, and we need to make sure that we hear everyone's voice as part of it. If we choose not to go for consultation, we could either delay it Or we could do this without consultation, and my preference would be to do it with consultation, with a hearings panel, to make sure that all of those voices are heard. We also need to not confuse the issue. There has been confusion about the difference between the original decision of the Minister, which was to move the school, the current process, which is a decision on whether or not to go out to consultation and the form of that, and then the next process, which is the planning process for the site. Now, the community get input into the currently proposed one for us, and also into the Ministry's planning process. And that is clear, and the Ministry will be consulting the community on the form of that. But actually, that's not our role. And while I would like more information, and the Ministry are giving more than they have before, which is really good, I'm happy to see this through today.
Yeah, I'm also happy to see this through. I know that we got a letter from the board of the Redcliffs school, and they said to us it would really help the result if we could actually combine the consultation, so that we weren't just talking about relieving ourselves of the obligations under Reserves Act for the new school site or the proposed school site, but also that we would be getting a park back for the people of Redcliffs, so that they could see the whole picture and not just part of the picture. So I'm very pleased that people have worked hard to make this happen, and I think we've got a good result on the hearings panel, which is engaging for the community board, which I also support. So I'll put the motion.
So can I just ask that, just a note,
Yes, yeah. Okay, well, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried, except for, so if you just show Yanni as opposing the other elements. Yeah, not 3. Their support's 3. The hearings panel for... Right, okay.